And before we get started, I would like to invite AWA+D President Meg Coffey, please, to say a few words, if you would.
Oh, thanks, Carol. Hi, everybody. Welcome to this first mentorship event. Carol has done a great job putting this together. Do we have any new members here tonight? Oh, I see two.
Hi.
Oh, nice.
I'm not a member yet, but I'm thinking about it. So
Oh, you should definitely join for sure, because I saw you last night too.
Yeah.
Well, welcome you all. We're so happy to have you all, and please let us know if there's anything of interest to you or if we are fulfilling your expectations. So with that, I'll just hand it back to Carol. I just wanted to introduce myself and welcome everyone to tonight's event.
Perfect. Thank you, Meg. Thank you, Meg. So in the spirit of all of this, I don't know if everybody's on mute. So as we get started, if everyone can please mute yourselves, we then obviously we want this to be a conversation and open to people being able to ask questions and to especially because you've got these panelists here who are amazing wealth of knowledge. And so we're going to sort of play that by ear. If you have questions, though, as we go, please don't be shy. Put them in the chat or raise your hand or do something, but we will try and make sure everybody gets a chance to ask the advice of all of these, of our fabulous panelists. So here we go. We, of course, have a really great program and an excellent panel. Everybody on this panel is extremely accomplished with just amazing credentials. And so what I'd like each of you to do is to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself, and maybe tell us something that we don't know. And so Leslie, because you're first up, I am going to ask you to start, please.
Hi, everybody. I'm Leslie Sydnor. I am a director at Cummings. And if you don't know Cummings does, well, they started as a cost management group, and now we do program, project, and construction management. I've worn all of those hats during my time at Cummings. Currently, construction manager at Hacienda La Puente School District. I've been in the profession for about 25 years or so. And I left the traditional practice of architecture in 2013 to jump to the owner side. So that's me.
Stephanie, I'm going to ask you to be next. Where are you going over there?
Muted.
She is. She may be.
Has
I
to
asked you
happen
to
at
mute.
least once. Hi, everyone. Thanks, Carol, for creating this great program and inviting me. I'm Stephanie Reich. I'm the Design and Historic Preservation Planner for the City of Santa Monica that really is the urban designer. I'm a licensed architect, and for the City of Santa Monica and for several other cities previously, I have helped manage the design review and historic preservation systems. Like Leslie, I jumped over the counter or swerved into a non-traditional architectural role in 2003 for me. So I've been serving City of Santa Monica and also 3 other cities in between since then, so about 17 years. And before that, practiced more traditionally for, depending upon how you calculate, 18 to 20 years. So, so I've had a really great ride so far, and I am really excited to hear what Stephen, Leslie, and everyone else on the call has to say tonight.
Thanks, Stephanie. All right, Stephen, you're up.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Steve Lewis. I'm a licensed architect and urban design principal right now with ZGF. My career is somewhat similar to Stephanie. I've vacillated back and forth between private practice and the public sector, including having co-owned a small firm in Los Angeles here, RAW International, for 20 years before going to DC and working for the General Services Administration in the Office of the Chief Architect. And so it goes and it goes. I am a former NOMA national president and currently leading ZGF's efforts in the Jedi age of architecture in the age of Jedi.
Exactly. Thank you, Stephen. So, and I am Carol Lanham. I'm going to be moderating this. Hopefully not saying a lot because we've got a lot of very, like I said, amazing panelists who have got a lot of a wealth of information to pass along. I'm a program manager at Kitchell, CEM, also construction manager, and I just veered off and did that about 3 years ago. And I am AWA+D Director of Mentorship for the next 2 years. So I'm very excited to get this thing kicked off and start our program. And so that is, we thought it was fitting for mentorship to just sort of talk about what is a mentor, because, you know, that sounds like it's an easy question, but I think there's a lot of definitions. And although I believe, and I think panelists would agree, that you need a mentor at all stages of your career and life, maybe personal and professional. But this program is really targeted towards young professionals, recent grads, people that are just starting out their careers. And sort of that's what we want to focus on. We want this to be a conversation. And as we run through the slides, we're going to pause. We're going to ask our panelists to share their thoughts about particular things. And what we're going to do is take some time and hope that you will be able to get to ask questions as we go, and that we can answer those and like I said, have a conversation. Because what we're going to do is we're going to talk about what a mentor is, maybe, and what it isn't. We're going to talk about what a mentee should do, ideally, what sort of your responsibilities are. And then we're going to talk about maybe get some tips on how to, you know, sort of how to find a mentor and who you should target, you know, for being a mentor. And with that, we're going to sort of start with, you know, first one, what a mentor is, ideally. And I'm not going to read through all of this stuff, but I think mentoring is a relationship first and foremost. And I think that it is a person who, you know, exhibits all of these characteristics. And it is somebody who is going to help you with your growth and development. But they have to exhibit some, you know, some sort of characteristics. And so I would like sort of the panelists to share some thoughts about this, if you would. And this time I'm going to start with Stephanie, if you would, if you can kind of talk through what you think about, you know, some of these examples and how maybe mentors have helped you and how you've helped others. I know that you mentor a lot of people, so I'm going to let you sort of talk to this a little bit.
Thanks for that, Carol. It's interesting because as I'm preparing for this talk tonight, I thought back on are there any folks that I would consider really a mentor throughout my career, or someone I thought of in those terms? And I actually think of many of my colleagues and bosses, former bosses, current people that I work with as mentors, although I'm not sure they fit in that kind of neat box in a way. I try to be open and to learn from the people that are everyone around me, and particularly the more experienced people. At this point in my career, I really take seriously the responsibility to help all the young people that I come in contact with in the profession or otherwise. And my own personal policy is to help anyone who asks for it. I do some more formal mentoring that I have 4 women that have been with me for well, some since 2012, others since 2013 or 14, that I've actually met through AWA+D mentoring events. And this group of 4 amazing women, I meet with them every 4 to 6 weeks at my home when we were able to do that for like a half a day on Saturday, and we have brunch. And it's been like one of the most rewarding experiences of my life, actually. And now we have Zoom calls every 3 weeks. And so, because everyone needs support. And again, like anytime anyone asks me for, to meet for coffee or for advice, or to have a Zoom, I always do my best to make time for that. And then I focus on the people, the team that I work with, to make sure that I'm supporting everyone, particularly during this period of time. So that's just who I am in relationship to the mentoring space.
Interesting. Well, I know when we met before, when we were a little talking about this program, and I added this to the slide because of something that Stephen said, which is a mentor is somebody who listens. And one of the things that I wanted to make sure is that we had a man on this panel, because obviously we are in the design profession. It's a male-dominated industry, and you should not be afraid to have a male mentor. Obviously, I did starting out because there weren't any female mentors around in architecture, and so I wanted to just talk, Stephen, a little bit about that in sort of do you mentor both men and women? Of course you do.
Yeah, of course I do. And
of course you do.
I mean, this is a multi-layered issue. If you wanted to unpack it a little bit, there's the issue of the reality of a relationship between mentor and mentee. In my case, a man. In the case of Kim Dowdell, the current president of NOMA, one of my most accomplished mentees.
Oh, nice.
You first start with your own character, and you have to be irreproachable. I mean, you really have to care deeply about the well-being and the significance of what that person has a potential to contribute. So you honor that, and your relationship is fully transparent. Hey, from a practical point of view, if you have enemies in this world, so as not to be co-opted somehow in a crazy kind of TV scenario, involve a third party in your mentoring relationship, so that there's always some validation or some balance there for credibility's sake. And it's sad to have to say that, but that may just be, that should not stand in the way of a sincere mentor who is willing to engage with a young person of any gender or any proclivity, for that matter, and give. The mentor's true spirit is that one of giving.
Oh.
There's a selfish satisfaction that we get when we do what we might consider to be not so heavy lifting, but that the mentee feels is a great weight lifted somehow. And when they go on to achieve and accomplish the sense of personal gratification, of affirmation that whatever I was able to offer inspirationally, advice-wise, what have you, helped contribute to this person's path and their success. To have that happen repeatedly in my life and career is my greatest accomplishment beyond any piece of architecture I may have been responsible for. So.
Oh, that's really nice. Well, Leslie, I know that you and we have talked like maybe a little bit about mentors and all of that. And so I'd like you to sort of jump in there and tell us what you think about what a mentor is.
I think a mentor is somebody who can see the path in front of you. So that's either somebody who has been there before or somebody who knows you and kind of can steer you down a path. So it might not be my path or the path that I took, but I see, I can see where that person can go. And I think that's really valuable. I've had mentors of kind of all stripes and colors and shapes and sizes. And, in some cases, it's people who have, who see me and say, you should be doing this. This is what you need to do to get to that next step. And then there are other people who, have not walked in my path. My first mentor is a gruff, volunteer fireman, ex minor league ball player who I met in my first job when I worked in the city of New York. He's 10 years older than me. His dad was a cop. He comes from a working class background. He met me when I was 2 days shy of 21. And I still call him. I just called him the other day. He's my mentor and my hero, and has totally encouraged me to, do a whole bunch of different things that I've done since I met him when it's been 30 years ago since I met him. So I think mentors can be many things. And I think sometimes, I love what Stephanie's saying about her relationship being very formal, very, we meet, we do this, we do that. I think all of my relationships in both directions are more informal, but have worked very, very well for me.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that, I think so much about what the relationship is has to do with you as a person, because my mentorship relationships have been more informal, but that's just because of the kind of person I am. And so anyway, I'm going to move on to next, which is obviously you all have talked about the fact that you do mentor a number of people. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about what a mentee does and the responsibilities there, ideally. And so obviously a mentee has to have an idea about sort of what they want to get out of the relationship, right? And I like sort of your comment, Leslie, before. The second thing is about being flexible. And you made a comment about somebody sort of pointing you in a direction you didn't think about, because they can see a path that maybe you're not aware of, or maybe you don't know about, or maybe you didn't see that for yourself, but they did. And so I think that that's an important characteristic, is to be open to, not open to feedback, whether it's positive or negative, because all of it is given with a true desire. If you've got, the right mentor, is given with a desire to truly help and encourage you to get where you want to be. But to be flexible in looking at, you might have an idea where you want to go, but if you're open to go a different direction, sometimes you'll find that works. I mean, obviously, I never expected in my career to be in doing corrections work at all. When I was in school, it never even occurred to me that doing jails would be a thing. And that was because I had two really fantastic mentors who showed me how interesting and how just how complicated and what kind of problems they were to solve, and it just led me in that direction. Also, I think as we talk about this, a part of it is being responsible to help manage the relationship. Stephanie, I know you talked about having formal, you have formal meetings that you've gotten scheduled, and I know that you would talk to this, that it's very important that the people commit to taking the time. I always say, this is my advice to anybody, do what you say you're going to do when you're going to do it, and that's important, and that's a responsibility, I think. So I would like you guys to sort of add what other qualities do you think a mentee should exhibit in order to make that relationship work really well? I'm going to start with Stephen this time.
Thank you. It just occurred to me, Carol, as you were talking, and something we haven't really discussed as a group, is that there are sort of different levels of mentoring. the default or the assumed version that we've been discussing is a kind of an extended commitment to spend time on a regular basis and to kind of shepherd along a young person through a period in their lives and maybe forever. On the other hand, it occurred to me that a lot of the people that I touch who reach out to me are reaching out around a particular challenge or an issue, and they want feedback and mentoring over specific things. And I'm able to have those relationships where it's not, I can't think of any have been one-shot deals where I got a call from a person once and gave them some advice. They went and did something and I never heard from them again. So there's a big network of those people out there. They're all operating at different levels, but they're always seeking. And I inevitably learned something, palatable through those engagements. But they're more specifically targeting issues that are current in those people's, worlds.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah,
Anybody?
my experience is similar, but also different than Stephen's. So I want to clarify something. I said formal. The relationship that I have with the four is imminently flexible. So, so we set a date, at the end of each meeting, we set a date, and whoever can make it, can make it. Luckily, I'm like, this is something that I maybe shouldn't take pride in, but I do. All four are employed in responsible positions. And that I just, as Stephen said, I get so much pride out of their accomplishments. It's almost silly. And then I think also because of my position with a city, and also because I'm a longtime AWA+D member, there are people who do call me for this or that advice, or maybe, it's almost like an interview, not really, but like I'm wanting to understand what my career options are. Can you have coffee with me? And then I may never hear from them again. And there's a range in between. And then another piece that I didn't mention, but maybe Carol, I should, is that as part of AWA+D, I help support or run or moderate something called a salon that used to happen at my home every month. And now it's, obviously virtual. And through that, there have been almost the whole setup is a mentorship. Part of it is a mentorship forum in a way.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. Leslie?
I was just thinking about the different state, kind of touching on what Stephen was saying, like the different stages mentorship. So I am also, just for everybody's information, AIA-LA, I'm on the board of directors, and this year we finally formalized a JEDI committee. And we're talking about a lot of the programs that we want to do. Mentorship is one of them. And it's interesting because one of the mentorship conversations we're having is kind of mentorship, the circle of mentorship, so that something that people don't think about is that younger people can mentor older people, which is never something that we think about. I also think about kind of mentoring people at the same stage in your career. And so I have a group of girlfriends that I've been friends with since we all worked together at the same firm back in the 90s. We've stayed in touch this whole time, and we've done different things in our career. And I think that we mentor each other. I'm the first one to leave the traditional practice. And when another one of the group was like, I'm thinking about that too, I kind of mentored her through that process. So I think that mentorship comes in kind of all shapes and colors. And you just have to look at, it's about looking at somebody who might be doing what you want to do and
Mhm.
conversation with them. And it could be a one shot like Stephanie was talking about, but a lot of times it just develops and becomes something more regular.
Yeah, I agree. And I have to put in a plug for anybody that's listening. I know that I said that this was a target, but one of the things that that we're also doing with AWA+D this year is starting what we're calling experienced professionals, because everybody needs mentors all the time, and that becomes just exactly, Leslie, what you're talking about. This is a group that is more like a support group for people that have about 10 or more years of experience, and so you've got some life under your belt, but there's still things that you need help with, and so we're doing exactly the same thing. So I think it's I think it just goes to a mentor is such, some things, but a mentee also has to, be willing to, you're always going to be a mentee from somebody, because everybody needs advice all the time about everything. And so you just sort of have to be open to looking at those conversations and those discussions with people, and, being willing to accept encouragement and not be afraid to ask for advice on, whether or not you think it's going to be a long term. I like the idea, Stephen, that you were talking about, that it's many layered, because they're long-term relationships, but then there's just like short things and ways to help somebody through a particularly difficult decision, like should I apply to grad school, or whatever, that can be over quickly, and I like that. So I'm going to move to
1 second, Carol.
oh no
Very-
you can't go backwards, there's no
No,
going
very-
no, go ahead.
that the foundation upon which a effective mentoring relationship is built is one of honesty, to a brutal point.
Yeah,
We have to be, completely objectively honest, and with love, so that it's, received in the right way. So I just had to put that plug in there.
no, I think that that's good, because I think what that does is it sort of speaks to this last point about a mentor is not somebody that is going to always be, I don't mean to say it, they're not always going to be nice, right? They're not always going to tell you what you want to hear, right? They're going to be honest, they're going to tell you the truth, and you have to be willing to take that advice. And so that's why I say you need to not check out and just say, you're being too hard on me when stuff gets challenging. And so I think, Stephen, thanks for bringing that up, because I think that's important. That sometimes it's hard, and sometimes you will hear things you don't want to hear, but I think in the end it's just about the honesty and sort of, again, if you have a mentor that is really trying to help you get where you want to go, it's all good. Even the tough things are to help you get to a better place. So let's talk about finding a mentor. So this is where I got mentored by my daughter in discussing this whole program, and it's so interesting because she is a recent college graduate, and part of what we were talking about in this is that she told me, she goes, everybody that's going to be attending this program is going to be sort of a type A personality. And they're like, I've got a goal, and here's the steps that I need to take to get to that goal. And so that I have to identify this person, and I have to find the best mentor that I can and go through all of these steps in order to be successful at it, because this is like a college assignment, right? I have to get an A. And I think it's important, especially if you're a recent grad, that you know, it's not an assignment. It's not sort of college anymore, and it's hard to sort of to recalibrate yourself to a career and a working relationship. And so I just thought that was a perspective that I hadn't thought about for a long, long time, because I don't have that anymore. But I think some of these ideas are just, remember, you've got to find, this isn't about not so much about finding, it is about finding a teacher, but it's about finding somebody who enjoys sharing knowledge and somebody that cares about other people. And this, I think, is more of a relationship, more than like identifying the person that you want to be like. You've got to find somebody that you can develop a relationship with, that's a back and forth and a give and take. And it may take some time to discover how that's going to work. And so I think that that's important, sort of as we go. And I have some sort of, finding a mentor and identifying who you think that should be, but then I also have some remember this. And so I'd like to get your thoughts, Leslie, on, when you're trying to look for a mentor, do you have some sort of advice on how to go about doing that, or how not to go about doing that? I think.
Well, it's funny, you shouldn't ask, will you be my mentor at the first meeting, because after I do have a mentee who met me and was immediately like, will you be my mentor? And I was like, oh, yeah, sure. That's not usually the way it should go.
Yeah. I was going to say,
But
that's like asking
it
somebody to
worked.
get married on the first date. So you just kind of,
90-day fiance.
yeah,
Sure.
exactly.
But I think that so I guess the people, I've actually only asked one person to be my mentor. The other mentors in my life have kind of come like much more organically.
Yeah.
And it was actually the first time that I had a mentor who looked like me. So all of my other mentors had been men, had been white, and I met this actually the way that I met this person was he was on the interview panel for a job that my firm was going to, and it was one of my first opportunities to actually interact with not just a Black architect, but somebody who had an incredible amount of power. And we kept talking after that interview. I think he saw something in me and I absolutely saw something in him. And after a while, I was just like, I would love your advice as I'm moving forward. And so that is how he came to be a mentor of mine. Definitely honest feedback. I mean, absolutely brutally honest feedback, but also, like I said, had the ability to kind of see down a path that I wasn't even thinking about and said, you could do this, that this is possible. And it kind of planted the seeds of me leaving practice actually to go to the ownership side. It was not something that I was really thinking about when I met him. But as we started to talk, I'm like, given my skill set, my interest, that might be a good way to go. So that was an interesting way to find a mentor. It was actually somebody who was interviewing my firm. My other mentors have been, people I've worked with and then stopped working with, but continued that relationship. So
yeah. I like what you said about happening organically, because all of my mentors, not a single one have we ever sort of had that relationship established from the very first time we met. It was something that was like getting to know somebody and learning to, somebody that cared about, the same things I cared about and sort of had the same goals. But what I really like, what you said is that you identified somebody that had power. And I think as a woman in architecture, also finding somebody who has power and figuring out how do I incorporate that in this sort of all male industry, and how do I use that? That's really interesting. I hadn't thought about it, but I do believe that is a something that you recognize and then try and figure out how to use that for good, right? And that's interesting. Stephen, I know you've got ideas about this as well.
So I've been carefully listening and relating heavily to everything all of my colleagues are saying, and being amused by their, therapy sessions of reliving and recounting these great moments, these pivotal moments in our lives. But you know, if we reduce this from a practical standpoint, okay, what are the scenarios most typically that one would encounter someone who would become a mentor? So there's the academic setting. So you're either a faculty member and you've got students, and some students become your mentees. You're a visitor to a class. You touch someone, they reach out. You know, or you go to an AIA convention or a NOMA convention, and your students and professionals are slammed together, and you have those opportunities there. So I think if you want to catch fish, you got to go where the lake is stocked. You know, and so I think just much more difficult in this moment in time. Not that we're not being exposed as we are right now, face to face with one another and meeting new people, but because it's a little harder to make that connection in this kind of virtual way. But you have to, if in the course of listening to a conversation like the one we're having, something that one of us or some of us are saying is really resounding with you, there are obviously ways to reach out. There's the chat, you know, I mean, however, whatever works. You have to be proactive. If you see the fish like surface over there, you got to cast over there, you know, catch it.
I think
Yeah,
I think you
wanna,
touched on it. Oh, sorry, Stephanie. Go
yeah,
ahead.
I'd like to amplify some of the things Stephen was just saying in some kind of in a few practical pieces of advice. I really love Stephen's idea about, you know, you need to really seek out people who are experienced and can be your mentor. And to that, I would say something that I don't know if you all know who Claudia Carroll is. She's at part of the leadership now at Gensler. There was a period where she was part of the core of AWA Salon. And I remember one time she said that men in firms, they don't have mentors, they have advocates. They have principals in the room when they have principals advocating for them, saying like, you know, Bob should be assigned to that project because his skill sets are, you know, and that help those people achieve. And so she's very cognizant of being that advocate. And so I think looking for, especially if you are in a firm organization, I personally believe that it is actually very important to have a relationship with someone higher in the hierarchy that can give you advice, be a supporter, and you know, I think it would be interesting to look around the firm and, you know, say to yourself, like, if you don't find anyone in that firm that fits that bill, like, is that the best place for you to be?
Wow.
So, and then where, like, what is it, because we all are, you know, 3, 4 multidimensional people. Aren't there different people that we meet in our lives that will help guide us in various ways? And to Stephen's point about the challenge of the virtual world, I want to agree with that, but I also want to challenge all of you who are taking your Wednesday evening to be here with us, that you have the drive, the ambition, the intensity to reach out to people who you find interesting, to say, hey, you know, do you want to have a conversation about this and that? And identifying, you know, do you have a particular challenge right now that you want help with? Do you want someone to help figure out the arc of your career? Which, by the way, that's not something that I've been very mindful of, since my career has been a lot more turns and less linear than I had thought when I was starting out. So I don't presume to know or advise someone on their path, because I think everything should be flexible and fluid.
Stephanie, you've just given them their first mentoring session free.
There you go. There you go. No, I agree. I think that that was one of the questions that I wanted to ask, that here we are in this situation where we're not able to network or meet people or even sort of find somebody that you can have a casual conversation with at an event to figure out if there is somebody that you would like to have a mentorship relationship with. And so how do you establish that? And I think you can. I agree, Stephanie. I think you can. And I think, though, it is, you know, maybe we're going to remember this. Don't ask somebody if they'll be your mentor the first time, but I don't see anything wrong with finding somebody that you thought was interesting at an event and contacting them by email. And it's like, hey, I really think I like what you do. Would you be interested in having a conversation? And you sort of just have to do it in a different way. And it's challenging. Obviously, we're not going to be doing this forever. It's just going to seem like we're doing this forever. But at some point, we will be able to get back together in person. And until then, you just have to be creative. I also think that two things that I want to point out, and these both came from my daughter, that your best mentor, as she said, may not be who you expect. And so she gave me an example that, again, these, you know, she type A, I'm driven. I have identified the person who is doing exactly what I want to do. And I think they're my best mentor, but in the end, it's like we don't click. We can't have a conversation. And I actually am getting good advice from this person, you know, who's you know, I'm an architect, he's a mechanical engineer, and he's been over there, but he's still doing interesting stuff and is still giving me good, solid advice. And so, again, this is part of being flexible. I think you have to be open to not just the people that you've identified. You know, you may have identified people you think will be good, but don't overlook that there's a lot of different kinds of mentors, and there's a lot of people out there that can help you. They just may not be the person that you expect them to be. And so that, I think, is interesting. And I also want to touch on, it's okay to quit the relationship. She knows, and she speaks from, you know, being 26 and having to get an A and having to be successful on the assignment and having to follow through and all of this stuff. And so at some point, when this relationship, you think it's going to work and it's not really working out, it's okay to stop talking to that person. I mean, obviously still talk to them, but it's okay. That's not failing. And I want to sort of reiterate that that is not failing to find a mentor. That's just realizing that maybe this isn't the best person to give you the advice that you're looking for. And so, you know, some of those things, I don't know if that triggers any thoughts from you, Stephanie, at all. If you've had a relationship or somebody that didn't quite work out, but maybe you were able to steer them to somebody else. I don't know.
I mean, there's something to be said about somebody who's a good mentor at some point and then stops being a good mentor because for whatever reason, that could be on your mentor and that could be on you yourself, who have, you know, you're charting a different path, you have a different interest. And that's, you know, that's perfectly fine. It is as Carol said, it's not a failure on your part at all. It's not like picking the wrong boyfriend or girlfriend. You know?
Oh, we've done that.
What's interesting, I think, is, you know, sort of getting back to the idea of at the core, your various mentors are a reflection of the different relationships you have with other professionals or non-professionals. You know, people come in and out of our lives, you know, over the natural course of time. And so that's just how I see it.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, we've got about 15 minutes. I want to talk this. I'm going to start here. So I know now been doing this for a long time. And one of the things that I wish I had known back when I was looking for a mentor is how I needed to be in that big lake, Stephen. I needed to go to events. I needed to network more. I needed to get more involved with the local AIA chapter, all of that stuff I did not do. And I wish that I had, because I think that network and building that network is, I don't think anybody teaches you how to do that. And it's an important thing, because not only does that help you sort of just meet other people in the industry and find other people, it also, helps you in, if you're looking for a new job, you sort of know what's going on in the whole of the industry. And so that's what I wish I could tell my younger self, to go to more events and get more engaged in the industry. And obviously we don't have to tell that to any of the people who are attending this, because they're doing that, but that is a definite thing. And so I'm hoping that each of you has, a tip that you can say, hey, here's what I wish I had known back when I was, starting out and young. And I don't even care who starts. Who would like to start?
So I'll start. I have to say, and in the late 90s, I was at a particularly challenging point in my career, and I found AWA. It was AWA at the time. It wasn't AWA+D, but it's the same organization. And around the same time, I started getting involved also in AIA. And that was probably a little more than 20 years ago. And through both organizations, I really credit both organizations for a lot of my success and who I am today, because of the network that I've been able to develop, because of the learning, the friendships, the support. It's really been just a very enriching experience in so many ways, to be, as Carol said, more involved and engaged in the profession. And I would also say, when it comes to that, you could also, I would absolutely highly, suggest that everyone join AWA+D, join NOMA, join AIA, even if you can't attend all the events. And then also consider what other types of organizations you want to be involved with, so that you can benefit from relationships with people who aren't architects, who have a really different perspective. Eventually they might become your clients, and et cetera. So I would like to really amplify what Carol has to say about getting out and networking and finding support and mentors and teachers in all places.
Excellent. Thank you. Leslie, what did you wish that you could tell yourself?
Very similar to what you said. I think early on in my career, I was just kind of wandering around, and I actually didn't really, I knew what I didn't want in my career, but I had no focus on what I did want in my career. And so I feel like I didn't move as far as I could have had I been a little bit more focused. I mean, real simply, I knew I didn't want to work for a big firm because I didn't think that my personality was suited to that. I thought I would get lost. I felt like those places were not meritocracies and that you had to schmooze, and that wasn't me at all. I think that if I knew then what I know now, I could probably be successful in that kind of space. But I didn't think so. And so that's what I wish I knew back then. In terms of kind of joining organizations, I will tell you that I've had more opportunities drop in my lap in the last year, and particularly interestingly enough since COVID, because of the organizations that I've been involved with, than I have in probably the last 5 years. So I definitely think, be involved, if there's something that you're interested in, and it's not, again, it's not necessarily professional related, you may meet somebody who may bring an amazing opportunity your way. And that's what I wish I knew.
Stephen, you knew everything.
Yeah, this one.
Yeah, he did. I feel like he did.
I was like, I can't. But then I thought, well, yeah, if I had known where the people in the students at the Syracuse University Business School were going to wind up, I would have spent a lot more time with them than my cohort in the architecture school.
That is true.
Oh, well,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I would have gotten an MBA, maybe.
Right. But I just want to say that the reason why there are not many things that I wish I knew then that I know now is because a path that I'm blessed to follow has been influenced by these mentors and different people that come into my life, and has, as a result, have allowed me to live as the man that I aspire to be, of giving back so much as I can, never saying no to a fault, but also seeing it's like if you don't plant seeds, nothing grows, So
Yeah.
I'm incredibly blessed, and I've been rewarded recently with the Bob Kennard Service Award with the LAAA, which is just an amazing honor. Bob was a
Yeah.
supporter of me and my partners when we started out in 1984, our firm. So, it's just, if you're moving and you're in motion, you are much more likely to bump into an opportunity than if you are static, waiting for that opportunity to find you. So be in motion, join those organizations, participate, turn this virtual world into some coins somehow for yourselves, and live this life that we're given right now. We don't have a lot of choice, so let's make the best of it.
Perfect. Perfect.
I've had a lot of great conversations in the chat in Zoom calls. And it has led by just reaching out to somebody who I don't know that I would have approached in real life, but feel really comfortable dropping a hi in the chat and, blah, blah, blah. I've gotten, like I said, COVID's been pretty amazing, gotten some great opportunities just by saying hi to somebody and commenting, going, I really like what you said there. And it's taken off from there.
That's so interesting.
I want to agree with what Stephen has said, because as I said in my intro, that I'm very grateful for the career that I've had so far. I also want to say that starting out in my career, this is to try to answer Carol's question, what I wish I knew. And I don't know if this is a fact or a thing. I wish I knew that I could get rid of my self-doubt, and that if I did that, I would become the person I wanted to be much faster than it actually happened. And one of the things that I talk about and it'd be interesting to ask Stephen his experience with the men and the women that he mentors, because I've mentored almost exclusively women. So I find that one of the things that we really focus on in the salon, in all of my mentoring relationships, is helping to build confidence. And that is something that I really wish that I was able to work on earlier, because I would have saved a lot of, emotional and psychic energy, with that self-doubt that I carried, and that I still carry. So I just wanted to honor Carol's question and offer that to the group.
Nice.
I
Nice.
appreciate your transparency on that. It's, I mean, it's made you who you are. And we're all with flaws, or we're all our worst, our harshest
Oh,
critic, right? But it just means that we seek to continue to grow. And I think when we have these mentor-mentee relationships, they're an opportunity to continue the growth.
Yeah.
Do it through others, but enrich yourself at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no reason why any of you out there who seek a mentor should not have one. You just have to hopefully get some wisdom from this conversation and then put it into action. Don't give up.
Absolutely.
Yes, and I
Absolutely.
agree with that. And I want to honor, Michael has a question that's been sitting in the chat for a while. Yes, it's much more difficult to get a sponsor than an advocate, because someone who's going to be your advocate has to be uniquely positioned and also willing to go to bat for you, which I think means that you have some proving yourself to do in the front end, so that that person is willing to stick their neck out and say, you know, this person, I think that person would really be a benefit to your team, because then the person they're advocating for really has to show up.
Yeah.
That's really great advice.
Yeah, I agree, because I think we all, the panelists, discussed talking about mentors versus advocates versus sponsors, and that's such a nuanced, it's just such a nuanced relationship that we decided, like, let's focus on mentors and talk about that. But yeah, I think getting advocates in your firm just can be totally different than having a mentor. But mentors can help you sort of figure out how to develop a relationship and how to find those advocates, if that makes sense. I think that that's definitely something a mentor can help you figure out how to approach somebody to be your advocate and ask them. It's almost like you have to be willing to like, hey, what's it going to take for me to get to this next level, and sort of develop a plan within your firm.
If you've repeatedly faced, say, opportunity that's been denied, this is where a mentor and that brutal honesty can be really helpful, because could be, you know, look in the mirror. What's the common denominator? Oh, what am I doing that's setting a bad impression or not getting me to where I need to be perceptually and performance-wise, et cetera? And then have that mentor have the ability to know you and to be able to say, well, you know, you should wear that, you know, red hat instead of that blue one, you know, whatever it is that affects your glow or whatever. So.
Right. And I think it's important to realize, and it's just been recently that this has been something that occurs to me, is that I don't think that in looking at our peers or our colleagues who we believe are more successful than we are, or getting the opportunities that we're not, I don't believe that we are giving luck enough credit on their behalf, that we're looking at it like, oh, they have more skill than I do, or they are better qualified or whatever. And I don't think that we're acknowledging that they just maybe were in the right place, talking to the right person at exactly the right time. And it didn't have anything to do with the difference in abilities. It's just like sometimes luck, you know, is that it's their time to get that luck. And I think that you have to sort of step back and acknowledge that sometimes that plays a part. And give and forgive yourself, and don't beat yourself up for not getting an opportunity, you know, because that may have been a factor. That makes sense to anybody else. I don't see any other questions in the chat. Do we have some questions anybody wants to ask? Somebody can speak up. It's okay. You can unmute yourself. Alejandra, anybody?
I can ask a question.
Sona, that would be fantastic.
I was wondering if any of our panelists have advice for people who have reached out, who have reached out and have gotten rejected, how to deal with rejection.
What kind of rejection, Sona?
Even if it's for, you know, for someone to meet for lunch, or I know you're not supposed to straight up ask for, you know, for someone to be your mentor, but just even in getting advice, you know, if someone has gone through that.
Well, I would say, and I learned this when I was working for the federal court, that there are lots of different reasons why people say no. And sometimes you just have to be persistent. And unfortunately, a lot of people's default reaction is to say no because it's easier than trying to invest. And so I would try and, like, were they too busy? Did they have, you know, a lot going on? And so they reacted in that way, but I would not give up. If it's somebody that you would really like to talk to, don't let one rejection sort of be the thing that keeps you from reaching out. Because I think that there's, we're under a lot of stress. Everybody's busy. This is weird times. And I would suggest trying again, giving a phone call, maybe a different type of communication. You know, I'm a huge advocate of just the phone call, because then that way you heard a voice. It's not an email, it's not as impersonal, and it's an opportunity to talk to somebody, because they might actually answer the phone. If that makes sense. I don't know if anybody's got anything else.
Well, I think if you know somebody who knows that person, that could potentially give you an introduction to that person, that might also be a way to at least crack the door open. That could be helpful. I mean, I've had people, you know, approach me, oh, I see you're friends with so-and-so. And, you know, it's, you know, unless I think it's not a good thing for whatever reason, I will always say, hey, you know, I met Sona at an event, and you know, I think, you know, she would really like to talk to you. Could you, you know, make some time and, you know, do kind of be a matchmaker of sorts. So that's another thought.
Yeah, and I think if about the rejection piece, if someone, you know, I don't like to use the word, someone declines your invitation to talk, you know, be careful about what story you tell yourself about it, because everybody is super busy. And then I would think that if, you know, as you correspond with that person, certainly if they're inclined to say no, maybe they're not the right person to give you advice. And then you can ask them, who might they suggest that you could approach.
Yeah, these are all helpful. I think, no, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say that is most wise, my dear, in every way, because you don't want to ever burn any bridges. You want to communicate that you're not insulted by the decline, that you're practical and saying, oh, well, sorry to be a bother. Is there anyone else that you think might be a good person? You know, whatever Stephanie said, I friggin' agree with it. It's perfect.
Yeah, I think my question is very much answered. Thank you so much. I think for me personally, what stopped me so far from reaching out to people is the idea of being rejected, and I think it's very helpful to brainstorm these scenarios of what happens when you get rejected, and it's not the worst thing that can happen.
Well, you certainly shouldn't take it personally, for one. It starts with your belief in yourself and the character of who you are. Maybe not so much what you've accomplished at this point in your life, but that too. But what is your character? And if you believe in yourself and you think you're firmly grounded and rooted in principle, then anybody who misses an opportunity to engage with you is the one who's losing. And you have to have that swag. You know, you got to be able to just say, like, all right, cool, moving on. Next.
Said the tall man.
Because you're worth it.
Very nice. Stephen, will you be my mentor? Does anybody have any other questions?
I have a quick question.
Okay.
So
Alejandra, this is Alejandra, anybody, because she's programmed AWA+D in her little square.
yeah. So my question is in relation to like, how transparent can you be with a mentor? Like, I've had issues at previous jobs where like I was brand new and I didn't know like how much I should be asking for like pay. So it's kind of like, that's always a very tricky question, right? Like, do you discuss things like salary, like where you should be aiming for, or like what other people are making in different like firms? Like,
do your homework before you go in and have that conversation. You really need to talk to your peers and others who can, or a mentor, who can give you a range and a sense of how to tie. You know, the worst thing we do, architects, is we don't understand our value and we don't proclaim that value and we don't feel entitled to what comes for that value. And we gotta turn that perception around. You know, you're damn worth it, and you're going to go in there and you're going to ask for something not unreasonable, but it reflects your value you place on yourself. And if they can't get with the program, you got to like, tighten your butt cheeks and get real, courageous and walk the hell out of there. And you do that enough, so you build up the confidence to be able to walk into a room knowing that you can walk out whenever you are ready. You need to be able to offer something in exchange for that. But you certainly can't let your vulnerability be exploited.
yeah. So my question kind of stems from like, do you discuss salaries with your mentor? Like, if your mentor is not within your firm, like how do you communicate what your accomplishments have been at your firm, or like what you're doing at your job, and how can they gauge what your next step should be if like, I don't know, like for myself now, I'm at a really small firm. So it's kind of like, I don't really know what my 5-year lookout is going to be at this firm, like that we don't really have like positions or something, like it's not clearly outlined. So
I'm really glad you asked this question. Let's put aside that we're in a very uncertain time, okay, for right now, because I think that maybe changes the conversation slightly. I personally believe that we are all too timid about talking about salary. And I really appreciate that there is a website called Glassdoor that can provide me some data. And I think having those conversations with your mentor, I think is exactly the kind of thing that you should be doing. One of the most satisfying salons we had was one of our members. This was some time ago. One of our members was about to go into her evaluation, and so all of us simply coached her about, you need to ask for more money, you need to ask for a better title, you're very valuable to them. And then she came out and reported back, and she did great. And I think that's exactly the kind of thing that we need to be doing for each other.
Yeah, and I think a mentor is absolutely somebody that you can practice with, because I think that that's a perfect thing to do, because it's really difficult conversation for a lot of people to have, and it always helps to have a strategy and kind of a script that you're going to go by, and to be able to sort of work that out with somebody. A mentor is definitely, I mean, you obviously have to do your homework and know that you're not reaching, so you're being reasonable in whatever you're asking for, but then hopefully a mentor has also enough experience to say, all right, if they can't, meet your salary demand, would they offer you an extra week of vacation? Because, that's worth something. And sort of go through those scenarios with you. I think that that's definitely somebody that you can, again, practice the conversation. And that would also be helpful in going and talking to somebody.
Hey, Carol.
Yes.
And Stephanie, Leslie, You know, I'm
Oh.
3 weeks recovering from eye surgery, and I just hit my limit.
Yeah, no,
I'm gonna have to be off and do a little.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, it's time to wrap up. We've gone over. I appreciate so much that you all were able to stay for the length of time. I think that this has been fabulous. Obviously, you all are amazing, and I am just so thankful that you were able to attend. So thank you, everybody, for doing this. I'm so happy that everybody was, you know, all the attendees. This has been recorded. And if anybody wants a copy of the PowerPoint presentation, we will figure out how to get a copy to anybody that wants one. So just reach out to programs at AWA+D or reach out to mentorship, and we'll make sure that you get taken care of. So I want to say thank you one more time. You guys were amazing, and I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you all.
Carol. Thanks,
All right.
Stephen and Leslie.
Yeah,
Thank
good night.
Hey, Carol, can
Yes.
you stay on for just a second?
I certainly can.